Hi guys, Craig Rivers here from Rivers End Outdoors. So I'm going to do a video on something that's probably more of a prepper video than anything. And I'll explain why in a minute. The thing is that, well, actually the reason is that growing up when I was a kid, in the house that I grew up in, big old two-story, it was my job to start the fire in the morning. We had a wood stove that heated the house, and then also to start the fire when I got home from school. Now this was through the late 60s, and it got to the point to where I absolutely hated starting fires. Now a lot of these people that live off the grid and are into going out into the wilderness and whatnot, they really have no clue. Because when you have to do that, that's your lifestyle, the way you live every day, collecting firewood, cutting kindling, stacking the wood, bringing the wood in, lighting the stove, keeping the stove burning in the winter, all those things. It's very, very difficult. And one of the things that I used to do, and people could still do this, is the newspapers came in a small roll, small local paper in a little plastic bag. And what you can do is take a pine board, little short pine board, and split that up into toothpicks like kindling, and then take a couple leaves of the newspaper out, roll your kindling up in there, and then put it back in the plastic bag. And that keeps it nice and dry, and then you can stack that up. That works really well. And it's good to have that stuff all done ahead of time, because there's nothing worse than, in the house, you're not gonna be going out and looking for fat wood and sticks and twigs and stuff to light your fire. You're gonna take a board or whatever you can, or try to peel some bark off of some logs. Do whatever you can do to get your fire going. And the worst thing that people do, of course, is they use lighter fluid and stuff like that in your little potbelly wood stove, and it'll just blow the door right off of there. You cannot do that. You got to do it properly. And there's a lot of dangers associated with living with a wood stove in the house. I have a couple of stories to that I don't really want to share right now. But the other thing is that if you make good fire starters, you can stack them up, and you can make a whole bunch of them and stack them up, and save them for like a prepper would, and save in case everything goes south in the world and you need to start a fire every day. So that's really the only reason why I'm working on this subject, because I didn't really want to do some artsy kind of thing, making candles and fire starters and stuff like that. So I'll go into that a little bit as I get started. So I've collected some stuff recently so I could make some of these fire starters, and I'll show you kind of what my latest version is and how I do it. So what I have is these tobacco cans. Sorry guys, I'm trying not to roll down the hill. Okay, so what I have is these used tobacco cans. Now, they're cardboard, and I got tons of them that I've collected over the years. Somebody that uses tobacco and it comes in a cardboard container, these are perfect. Now you can use cupcake wrappers or papers or little drink cups. You can use just about anything, but it's best to find something cardboard. I wouldn't use a plastic one or a tin one or any of that. I've seen people use tin ones and they just leave it in the fire and then pull it out afterwards. But the cardboard will burn up. Take the lid off, light it, and the cardboard will burn up. You're good to go. So what I've seen people do is they'll take a tuna can and then they'll cut up a strip of cardboard. Yeah, easier said than done. Well, they do a little neater job than I did. And then what they'll do is they'll roll this up. And then they'll stuff it in a tuna can and they'll pour wax over it, and you can kind of use it as a stove. It'll burn for quite a while. So typically what I do on my fire starters, see, they kind of just roll it up, stuff it in there. They fill the whole thing up with cardboard. They cut the strip as wide as the tuna can, and they wrap it around until it's a bundle. Then they pour wax over it, and then they light it, and the thing will burn for quite a while. And it works as a stove. So what I have for my starters, fire starters, is I have some burlap, and that'll act as the kind of the wick. So what I'll do is I'll cut some little strips off of this. Find the end here. Burlap is something that we used to have laying around the place all the time. I was looking around for some burlap and I couldn't find any. So my wife had to run down to the local fabric store and buy me some burlap. So then what you want to do is take your burlap and roll it up so it makes kind of like a wick. It doesn't even have to be that big, it can be smaller than that. You stuff that in the middle. You want to be able to smash it down once it's that much. Kind of probably about like that. See how that is? So when I get my wax and candles and whatnot, I just go down to Salvation Army or one of the thrift stores, and I mean, I don't know what I paid for this one, $1.98. This one paid $4 for that one. Okay, so the other thing I do now, most of you that have been involved in agriculture and whatnot, you'll know about shavings. So you can buy shavings already that are done, or already, you know, chunks of sawdust from the mills. So there's two kinds. This is a fine kind. I like the kind that's a little more coarse. So what I do is I put some shavings in there. That helps. You got your cardboard, you got everything. You don't really even need the cardboard. If you have the larger shavings, that's all you need. Okay, so the other thing is, I had a pretty decent coat that I used to wear going out into the wilderness. And I always carried a little candle with me. So I had a little candle in my pocket. And my coat was sitting on the seat of my pickup truck. Well, the thing was that the sun hit that truck, and that candle melted and ruined the side of my coat. Waterproofed, but it was ruined. And so this is one of the other reasons why I kind of came up with this. And I use that candle, or candles like that, I would just put them in and light them and get my fire going. And so what makes this handy is that when you're all done with it, you put the lid on, and these cans are like they're wax coated from the factory, and they won't leak all over the place. So you kind of make your like a little natural nest in there with the burlap. Naturally, I made a mess because I always do. But that's just me. Now, as you can see, I got hundreds of these things. So what you can do is you make a whole bunch of them, and then you stack them up, and you can take a piece of, some paper bag and wrap it around there and put some tape on there. You can stack up 10 cans. That's 10 days of fire with no problems, easy to start, and you're good to go. The other thing is you can take them and you toss them in your pocket, toss one or two in your backpack. You don't have to worry about starting a fire. Okay. So, get this chunk out of here because I don't really need it. Ugh. Ugh. Got wax all over the place. Okay. I'm surprised, but that handle actually got hot. You don't have to heat everything up so it's like boiling. What you do is you just pull it off to the side a little bit. Okay, now here's the trick. Can I pour it without making a mess? I actually got a can here to pour it in the can and then pour it from the can into the containers. Yowzer, that's hot. Yeah, I had that way too hot. I didn't need it that hot. A lot of times when I'm melting wax, I just use like a sterno stove or something. Just pour that in there. Oh, that looks good. Those look really good. I noticed this wax is scented, but that ain't gonna hurt anything. Okay, let those cool. And the burlap will wick up the wax a little bit, make it easier to, you got wax all over the place, make it easier to light. And there's also some other aspects to this. It's cool. Push it down in there a little bit. In this one, like I said, you can get the animal shavings at Walmart, feed stores, wherever, and it's bedding for like if you have sheep, goats, whatever, dog pens. And there's a coarse cut and a fine cut. I had fine cut, and I prefer the coarse cut, but that's all right. These a while to cool. Got that wax way too hot. The other thing I wanted to try, while I'm thinking about it, is where I live, we don't have birch trees, or fatwood's kind of rare, but we don't have birch bark and all that stuff to start fires with. So I was wondering if I got a piece of burlap and wax, if I could scrape that like you would birch bark and get it to light with a ferro rod. Man, these are taking a long time to cool. Okay, so here's the trick. Kind of making these so that you can light them with a ferro rod. Or if you got a dead lighter and you got sparks on your lighter, or your lighter still sparks, a janky jar of Vaseline. This thing's been in, I'll bet this thing was in the house when we got the house, and my house is 100 years old. So you do the typical work it in with your fingers, Vaseline thing. Shred it a little bit. Boy, those are some tight knit cotton balls. Then you stuff those right in. The wax is not cooling down. Stuff those right in there. Put the lid on there. See if these work. Lid on so it cools till it cools. Okay, now I got wax and Vaseline all over the place and made a complete mess. Let those cool down. We'll see how they work. Like I say, what I would do is I'd get a whole bunch of them, or your little cups, your cupcake cups, or your little drink cups, little medical drink cups that are about that big around. They're only about that tall. You can make these fire starters out of them. And then what you do is you cut up a paper bag. And you roll them in there. Put a little piece of tape around there so you have a roll, like so. And then you can stack those up. And like right there is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 days. You can start a fire easily. The big deal on this is that is going to be the Vaseline in the cotton ball. See if they start with a ferro rod. I mean, I suppose you could put a little piece of Scotch tape around them. Once they're cool and they're stuck together, the lid's not gonna come off. Cool part about it is they're made from cardboard. Now I know a lot of the tobacco cans are made of plastic. Please don't use plastic. It's bad for you to breathe, for one thing. You don't really want to be burning it if you can help it. Never gonna get my wax off my pitch. That cooled down. Kind of a soft wax. interested to see if this will work. Like, I see the bushcrafters scraping the inside of birch bark or whatever kind of bark it is. And they, with their ferro rod, they light it right up, but there's sap and whatnot on it. And we'll see how that goes. Uh-oh. Sticking to the lid. Oh, there we go. Still warm in there. I'm gonna try this. Knife don't really work for this knife don't work very good on ferro rods, but we'll see. Yeah, there you go. Look at that. Look at that. That's the same as, like, use it the same way like you would birch bark. That's pretty cool. I'm excited about that. I just dipped the, you saw what I did. I just dipped the burlap in the wax. Scraped it like you would birch bark. Sort of. There we go. That works pretty darn good. Okay. All right, guys, we had a little bit of a pause there. Kind of made a mistake. And what I did is I soaked the cotton balls in Vaseline, of course, and then put them in my fire starters, but I did it before the wax was had hardened or solidified, before it cooled down. The cotton balls soaked up the wax, made it extremely hard to light with a ferro rod. Still good probably with matches or a lighter, whatever, as a fire starter, but I kind of wanted to make these so you could light them with a ferro rod and, you know, like 1 or 2 strikes and get it lit. So I have a new cotton ball in this one. Give it a shot. Hopefully I could do this. Come on. There we go. I was having trouble with them, I'll admit it. But I figured it out. And you can't put the cotton ball in until the wax is hard. There it goes. So, yeah, that works pretty good. Just remember, if you do that, even if you make the ones with like out of little cups or cupcake wrappers or whatever, the little molds for cupcakes with the paper, and put them together that way. You can take your cotton ball and get it saturated with Vaseline. Make sure you do it after the wax is hard, because that's where I made my mistake. Probably taking your knife and carve a little pocket in the center, put your cotton ball with the Vaseline on it, and then you'll be able to start it with a fire rod. So I think that was a pretty good thing. And the other thing that I liked was the wax on the burlap. I was pretty impressed with that. That lights pretty easy. I mean, it lights really easy. So I might make me a bunch of this, and then I can just, you know, put it in a little tin can and carry it in my pack. I actually even went in and got my tool steel holder that I had made, and for some reason it's not working good. I don't know if the angles on the corners are right, or maybe tool steel doesn't have enough carbon in it. I think the thing is you need carbon, and I thought these tool steel things had high carbon content. So I'll read into it and check out what's the best material. The other thing is that these goofy church keys, they work good for strikers on your ferro rod. So anyway, that's it for this video. Again, I hope everybody's healthy out there. Take care of your families. Say hi to your neighbor. See if your neighbors need anything. Yeah, it's a nice day today. My rooster's not pestering me like he was in my last video. Good, everything's good. So I will see you on the next video. Craig Rivers here from Rivers End Outdoors. I hope you all have a good day. Bye now.